I never thought my own family would try to bar me from my father's 65th birthday celebration, yet here I stood outside the majestic Sapphire, watching my sister Evelyn block the entrance with her couture-clad body. The five-star resort's facade loomed behind her, its modern architecture's stark contrast to the ugly scene unfolding at its doors. "You think you can just waltz in here?" Evelyn hissed, her eyes narrowing as she adjusted her diamond necklace, a gaudy piece that screamed new money. "This is Dad's big night, and we're not letting you ruin it with your ordinariness." "You can't be serious," I said, adjusting my simple navy dress, one that cost more than Evelyn's monthly salary. Not that she knew that. "He's my father too, Evelyn." His perfectly painted lips curved into a sneer. "Oh, please, Elizabeth. You're out of your league. This isn't some hole-in-the-wall cafe you're used to scrubbing tables at. Look, Elizabeth, this isn't some casual dinner at Olive Garden. The majestic Sapphire is exclusive." She emphasized the word like it was beyond my comprehension. "You'd stick out like a sore thumb among Dad's elite guests. Do us all a favor and leave. The tasting menu alone costs more than you probably make in a month." If she only knew that I designed that menu personally with our James Beard award-winning chef. Besides, she continued, checking her reflection in the glass doors, Mum and Dad were clear. They only want successful people here, people who won't embarrass the family. "Embarrass?" I echoed, my voice low but sharp. "You're the one making a scene, Evelyn. Do you even know who's funding this party?" Her eyes flickered with uncertainty, but she quickly masked it with a scoff. I thought about the irony of her words. Just last week, I'd signed off on a $150 million 0 cents expansion of the majestic Sapphire chain. Today, I was apparently too embarrassing to enter my own resort. This whole situation would be almost funny if it didn't hurt so much. 12 years ago, when I decided to leave the family's small consulting firm to pursue my own path in resort management, they'd all but disowned me. "You threw away a stable future," Evelyn had mocked back then, her words dripping with disdain. "And for what? To play hotel maid?" My father's words still echoed in my memory. No daughter of mine is going to be a glorified event planner. So I'd let them think what they wanted. Let them believe I was struggling working minor jobs in resort operations. Meanwhile, I'd built Sapphire Leisure Group into one of the most successful resort chains in the world. "You always were the dreamer," my mother's voice cut in, joining Evelyn at the entrance. "But dreams don't pay for places like this, Elizabeth." The glorified event planner now owned 45-star resorts across 4 continents. "Elizabeth!" My mother's sharp voice cut through my thoughts as she appeared behind Evelyn. "What are you doing here? We discussed this." No, they had discussed it. I'd received a text message this afternoon at 2 p.m. "Don't come to Dad's birthday. It's at the majestic Sapphire. You didn't even have the decency to call," I said, my tone steady despite the sting. "A text? Really, Mum?" "You can't afford it. Don't embarrass us." "I brought a gift," I said quietly, holding up the small envelope. Inside was the deed to a vacation estate in Provence, one of the majestic Sapphire's most exclusive properties. I'd planned to give it to my father as both a birthday gift and a revelation of who I really was. "A gift?" Evelyn snorted, rolling her eyes. "What, did you knit him a scarf, or is it another one of your thrift store finds?" "Oh, what is it, a gift card to Chili's?" Evelyn laughed. "Or did you scrape together enough tips to buy him something from the outlet mall?" My mother's eyes narrowed at my simple clutch bag, a handcrafted Spanish leather piece that cost more than Evelyn's car. "Whatever it is, I'm sure your sister's gift is more appropriate." I shot back, my patience thinning. "Like the cheap perfume you gave him last year, Evelyn? Or the knockoff watch you thought no one noticed?" She just made senior associate at her firm. You know, I knew, just like I knew her firm was currently in negotiations to lease office space in one of my buildings, the lease they desperately needed and couldn't quite afford. "Evelyn's doing so well," Mum continued, warming to her favourite topic. "New condo in the city, luxury SUV, wonderful fiancé with such good prospects." prospect, I said, unable to resist. Her fiancé's firm is begging for my approval on a merger. Did she mention that? She paused, giving me a critical once-over. And you? Well, at least you're trying, I suppose. I thought about my mansion overlooking the Pacific Ocean, my collection of vintage motorcycles, the private yacht I'd sailed in on this evening. His mum? At least I'm trying. Speaking of trying, Evelyn smirked. That dress? Couldn't you have made an effort? This is the majestic Sapphire, not some motel. This dress, I said, my voice icy, was hand-stitched by a designer you couldn't even get an appointment with. I ran my hand over the sophisticated navy silk, custom-made by one of Milan's most exclusive designers, the same designer who had refused to make anything for Evelyn last month. Not that she needed to know that connection. It's what I could manage, I said mildly. Well, you can't come in, Evelyn declared. We reserved the entire executive floor. Your reservation is on my dime, I said, my voice calm but cutting. Did you think the resort comped it out of kindness? It's for family and distinguished guests only. The executive floor, my executive floor, the one I'd personally redesigned last summer, down to selecting every piece of artwork in crystal chandelier. The distinguished guests being? I asked, genuinely curious about who they'd invited. Oh, you wouldn't know them. My mother waved her hand dismissively. The Johnsons. They own that successful consulting firm. The Johnsons who lease my downtown properties? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Or did you mean someone else? The Greenwood's old man, you know, and Mr. Carter from the investment firm. All very important people, I suppressed a smile. William Johnson leased 3 of my properties. The Greenwoods had recently begged for a membership at my most exclusive retreat. And Mr. Carter, his investment firm was currently seeking a major loan from my venture capital group. Important, sure, I said, but they all answer to me in one way or another. Right? I said, very important people. Exactly, Evelyn said, clearly pleased. I understood my place. So you see why you can't be here. What would people think if they knew Dad's failure of a daughter was serving their cocktails while, Evelyn? Our mother chided softly, though her eyes showed approval. Be nice. Elizabeth made her choices that built this empire, I said, gesturing to the resort. While you were busy judging me, I was out working you all. If she'd stayed with the family firm like you did, things would be different. The family firm that now occupied a modest office in one of my buildings, always barely making rent. Just then, my brother-in-law Edward appeared, straightening his tie. What's taking so long? Everyone's waiting for... Oh, he spotted me and his face dropped. Elizabeth, you're still here? He said, his tone dripping with condescension. I thought we made it clear this isn't your scene. Elizabeth didn't expect to see you here. Clearly not, I replied. Edward just made vice president at his investment firm, my mother announced proudly. Junior vice president. I corrected automatically, knowing his exact position because his investment firm handled some of my smaller accounts. Well, it's more impressive than whatever you're doing, is it? I asked, tilting my head, because I'm signing off on your firm's acquisition next week. Evelyn snapped. What is it now? Assistant director at some chain resort? I thought about the board meeting I'd left early this morning at 9 a.m, where we discussed acquiring that very investment firm Edward worked for. The paperwork was probably still sitting on my desk upstairs in my private office. Something like that, I said. You're delusional, Evelyn spat. You think you're some big shot. You're nothing but a wannabe. This is ridiculous, my mother declared. Elizabeth, just go. You're making a scene. I'll tell your father. You couldn't make it, couldn't afford it. You mean, Evelyn added with a laugh. I looked past them, through the grand entrance at the resort I'd built from the ground up, at the granite floors I'd selected, the crystal chandeliers I'd commissioned, the artwork I'd personally curated. All of it, every inch was mine. A scene, I said, my voice steady. You're the one screaming at the owner of this resort? For a moment, I considered walking away. Let them have their party. Let them keep believing what they wanted to believe. But then I remembered something my first mentor had told me. Success doesn't mean anything if you can't stand up for yourself. I straightened my shoulders, feeling the strength of everything I'd built without their support or approval. You've spent years tearing me down, I said, my eyes locking with Evelyn's. But today, you'll see exactly who I am. Actually, I said quietly, I think I'll stay. Before my mother could respond, the heavy glass doors swung open and Michael, my head of security, stepped out. He'd been with me since I bought my first struggling resort 9 years ago, helping transform it into the flagship of the Sapphire chain. Is everything all right here, Madam President? His voice carried clearly across the entrance. Madam President? Evelyn choked, her voice barely a whisper. What is this nonsense? Your usual table is ready, and Chef Antoine held the menu, tasting for your approval. The silence that followed was deafening. Evelyn's mouth fell open, her perfectly applied lipstick suddenly garish against her pale face. My mother gripped the brass door handle for support. Michael! I smiled warmly. Perfect timing. You're in on this joke too, Evelyn demanded, her voice shaking. She's nobody. My family was just explaining how I couldn't afford to dine here, ma'am. He looked genuinely confused. But you own Dash, the entire resort chain. Yes, I do. I turned to my stunned family. Shall we go inside? I believe you've reserved the executive floor. To be precise, Edward found his voice first. This is some kind of joke. A joke? I said, stepping closer. The only joke is you thinking you could keep me out of my own property. You're just a resort manager. Actually, Michael, interjected professionally, Miss Elizabeth is the founder and CEO of Sapphire Leisure Group. She owns all 40 majestic Sapphire resorts worldwide, along with our retreat properties and restaurant chains. Evelyn's designer clutch slipped from her fingers, clattering on the granite steps. But that's impossible, I said, my voice calm but firm. I built this from nothing while you mocked me. The majestic Sapphire is worth billions, I finished for her, which makes your comment about me not being able to afford the tasting menu rather amusing. I stepped past them into my resort's lobby, where the staff immediately straightened to attention. Good evening, Miss Elizabeth, my front desk manager called out. Miss Elizabeth? Evelyn muttered, trailing behind me. This can't be real. You're lying. The executive suite is prepared for your father's birthday celebration. Thank you, Emma. I turned back to my family, still frozen in the doorway. Coming. They followed me in silence, looking around as if seeing the resort for the first time. Every staff member we passed greeted me by name, each showing the genuine respect I'd earned through years of hands-on leadership. How did you pull this off? Edward whispered, his confidence crumbling. You were supposed to fail. But your dress, my mother finally managed, staring at my simple navy dress with new eyes. Custom made in Milan. Around $40,000, 0 cents, I believe. I have a terrible habit of not checking price tags anymore. I led them to the private elevator, the one that required a special key I pulled from my clutch. Unlike Evelyn's dress, which I believe is a knockoff. Evelyn gasped, clutching her dress. How dare you? This is couture. The real Versace collection hasn't been released yet. I know because I attended the private showing last week. The elevator doors opened directly into the executive lounge when my father's birthday celebration was in full swing. The room fell silent as we entered. Elizabeth. My father stood up from his place at the head table, his face a mix of shock and confusion. You told me she was a failure, he said to my mother, his voice lied to me. What are you doing here? Your mother said you couldn't dash afford it. I finished walking over to him. Happy birthday. I hope you don't mind that I'm crashing the party in my own resort. You're at a resort. Mr. Carter. From the investment firm stepped forward, his face breaking into a relieved smile. Miss Elizabeth, I had no idea you were related to Thomas Wilson, nor did I know you were so connected, he added, eyeing my family nervously. We've been trying to secure a meeting with you for weeks about that loan. Elizabeth owns the majestic Sapphire. William Johnson joined in. My God, Thomas, your daughter is the mysterious CEO who's been buying up prime real estate across the state. My father sank back into his chair, the colour draining from his face. All this time when we thought you were just a glorified event planner? I raised an eyebrow. Your exact words, Dad, I said. You said I'd never amount to anything. Your words, I believe, from the day I left the family firm to pursue my dreams in resort management. But why didn't you tell us? My mother demanded, still clutching her pearls like a lifeline. Would you have believed me? I asked quietly. You didn't believe in me 12 years ago when I needed your support. You called me a disgrace, I added, my voice steady but laced with pain. You said I'd come crawling back. Well, here I am, standing taller than any of you. Why would I share my success with people who only measure worth by the size of someone's bank account? I paused, though by that metric I suppose I'm worth more than everyone in this room combined. Evelyn collapsed into a nearby chair, her face ashen. The estate in the south of Spain I tried to rent last spring, the one that was mysteriously unavailable. You blocked me? She whispered, her voice breaking. You knew it was me? Mine, I confirmed, just like the office building your firm is struggling to lease. Edward, and the retreat membership you've been waitlisted for. Mother, Elizabeth, my father started, his voice unsteady. We save it. I held up my hand. I didn't reveal this to hurt you, though you've hurt me plenty over the years. Hurt? Evelyn snapped, tears in her eyes. You humiliating us in front of everyone. I did it because I'm tired of hiding my success to spare your pride. I turned to address the room. Please enjoy the party. Everything is on the house. My house. I started to walk away, then paused. Oh, and Dad, that envelope Evelyn wouldn't let me give you, it's the deed to estate in Provence, one of my most exclusive properties. Consider it a birthday gift from your failure of a daughter. A deed? My mother gasped. You can't afford that. This is some kind of trick. The next hour was surreal. People who had ignored me at previous family gatherings suddenly wanted to discuss business opportunities. The Greenwoods practically begged for that retreat membership. Mr. Carter cornered me about his investment firm's loan application. Through it all, my family sat in stunned silence. Evelyn's fiancé disappeared after learning her guaranteed future partnership at her firm depended on a lease she couldn't afford in my building. Edward kept making calls, presumably to update his resume. My mother alternated between crying and trying to explain to other guests that she'd always believed in her daughter's potential. Always believed? I overheard her say to a guest, I knew Elizabeth was destined for greatness. I bit back a laugh. As the evening wound down, I found my father alone on the balcony, staring out at the ocean. Those buildings, he pointed to the skyline. How many do you own? Enough, I replied, standing beside him. The family firm's building included. He nodded slowly. I was wrong about you, Elizabeth. So terribly wrong. Yes, I agreed you were. And you never apologized, not once, for all the years you dismissed me. And you ever forgive us? I considered his question, thinking about all the years of dismissal and condescension. Forgiveness isn't the issue, Dad. Respect is. You never respected my choices or believed in my abilities. You only respect success after it's proven. And now, I smiled slightly, now you can tell people your daughter owns the majestic sapphire. And I'll make sure they know, I added, my voice firm. Not for your pride, but for mine. That should satisfy your need for impressive dinner party conversation. I left him there, heading to my private office on the top floor. Tomorrow the family dynamic would shift dramatically. Evelyn would no longer be the golden child. My mother would frantically rewrite history to claim she'd always supported me. Edward and his investment firm would probably face acquisition, and I'd walk away, not just as their daughter or sister, but as the woman who proved them all wrong, on my own terms.